Good evening. This is Quintus Curtius, and welcome back to the podcast. And in this podcast, we're going to be dealing with two questions that I received recently by email from readers. One question is a relationship question, and the other question is more of a lifestyle choice or life trajectory choice type question. And the first one, we'll go through that here. It's from a girl in her early 20s. And there's some detail to it in the email that she sent me. There was a lot of detail, which it's not really necessary to read or sift through all of it. I'll just point out the relevant parts. She's from an Eastern Mediterranean family, a traditional family. She's about 20 years old, and bottom line is she has a question as to whether she should continue to continue to try to make a relationship work that is kind of died already, for lack of a better word. I'll give you the details, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the impressions here. I mean, I don't often answer questions like this. It's really not my thing. But I don't know, every now and then I kind of get interest in doing this sort of thing. Sometimes it's fun. It's always good to get a second opinion on things like this. But anyway, she's 20 years old, comes from a Mediterranean family, Eastern Mediterranean. And she was in a relationship. Her boyfriend was a 23-year-old guy. And I guess he was also from the Mediterranean region, but not 100% from her cultural background. And there were some complications right off the bat, which anybody who knows how the Mediterranean works, things are always complicated. Her mother never really warmed to this guy. And, from what she's telling me about him, he's 23 years old, lacking a little bit in confidence, kind of apparently just a little bit lacking in direction, that sort of thing. And what kind of brought things to a head was she had a fight with him, I guess, and she ended the relationship due to some fight that happened. And basically, it's kind of like a three-way situation where it's the boyfriend and the girlfriend are dealing with each other, but the girl's mother is also in the mix, which is never a good thing. So the bottom line is, her question is, she's trying to decide if she should give this relationship a second chance. And one of the really important sentences that I saw in her email that jumped out at me, she basically said that to fix things, all he has to do is try to make things right with her mother. Okay? To fix things, all he has to do is to try to make things right with her mother. I'll read you the exact words. So she says, I also told my partner that all he had to do was to fix the relationship with my mom so that she had no reason to hate him. What my mom saw and heard from the last argument I had with him was enough for her to lose any respect she might have had and the trust which they had only just begun to build. So those are her two sentences there that she said to me in the email. And her question is, do I give this relationship another chance because of what I feel for this man? They're kind of like friends now, even though I risk everything by doing so. A little bit dramatic there, but what can I say? Young people in their early 20s are always dramatic. That's kind of how this works. That's okay. That's good. That's the way it should be. So anyway, that's her conundrum. All right. So here are my thoughts. Here are my thoughts on this, just from what little I can glean from the email. Basically, this relationship is kind of already over. It's already finished, And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because what I think you're asking this guy to do is not reasonable. What you're asking him to do, I think, is not reasonable. it's hard enough just to get on good terms with a partner. But now when you bring your mother into the mix, you're asking him to be you're asking him to try to ingratiate himself with your mother. And I understand that that's important if you can do it, that good relations with your parents are important. I understand that sometimes Mediterranean mothers can be overbearing and very difficult to please. Okay? All right, I know that. I'm well aware of that. Believe me. But it's not reasonable, I think, to ask a young man to not only get along with you and make you happy, but you also want him to make your family happy. You also want him to make your mother happy. And let me tell you, you know, that's just not reasonable. Now, if he was, the most you can expect, I think, is the basic courtesies. Obviously, if he was gratuitously rude or disrespectful or did something completely inappropriate, that's different, okay? But if it's simply because, if your mother doesn't like him simply because she doesn't like his personality or she just doesn't think he's appropriate or whatever, you know, he's not going to be able to change her mind. He's not going to be able to win her over. That's another one of these myths that you're going to somehow win over people over time just by the harder you try. All right? So I think and again, I'm not asking you to choose between your mother and your boyfriend. Okay, so don't misunderstand me. What I am saying is you need to have reasonable expectations with relationships. You have to have reasonable expectations. You're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. You're not going to be able to make him happy and your mother happy 100%. That's what compromise is all about. And my feeling is if you really do have feelings for this guy, you would be able to tell your mother in so many words that, look, mother, I respect your opinion. I understand you don't like Mr. XYZ. Okay? I understand that. But he's very special to me, or whatever words you want to use. And you assert yourself. You stand up for yourself. You assert yourself. Now, I'm not saying in a way, notice, I did not say to be disrespectful to your parents. I did not say to flip out and become a drama queen and have a meltdown and have a temper tantrum. But there are ways of asserting yourself in constructive, respectful ways. And people can sense that. All right? People can sense that. And, you know, you're an adult too. If you're 20 years old, you have a right to make your own choices about things like that. All right? And I think the real reason, those are my thoughts. Let me give you my let me go one step further. Because in these types of emails, I always know how to read between the lines. I always know how to really get to the heart of the matter. Let me tell you what I think you're really asking me. Or let me tell you what I think you really believe. I think you don't want to have a relationship with this guy. You've already mentally written him off. He's already been fired. You've broken it off. You don't like him. And that's fine. That's okay. You don't have to be apologetic about that. But don't put it on your mother. If you don't want to hang with this guy, if you don't want to be this guy's girlfriend, have the courage to say, you know, I broke it off. You know, I wasn't feeling it. You know, he wasn't the type of guy that I was looking for. That's okay. That's okay. You know, free country. Life is like that. You know, vida é assim. You know, as they say, life is like that. But don't put it on your mother. Don't try to make your mother the heavy. See, this is the type of thing I don't like. This type of buffer behavior, this type of behavior of trying to pin your decisions on other family members. Now, again, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think that you're using your mother as the foil. I think that you're using your mother as the excuse to break up with this guy because you don't really have the conviction yet. You haven't really made that mental leap yet that you want to fire this guy, that you're done. And what I'm telling you is you should have that courage. You should have that confidence in yourself to move on. Because, you're going to save everybody a lot of time. You're not doing anybody any favors. You're not doing him any favors. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing anyone any favors. So, be a woman. Be, show some character. If you don't want to go out with him, you just break it off. That's it. He'll get over it. Believe me. He'll understand. Okay? He'll understand. Because I really think that what you're asking him to do is unreasonable. Asking him to do something which is impossible, which is repair the, quote, relationship with your mother. That's not something any young guy is going to be able to do. Okay? He can't do it. And you know that. You know that. So what you're setting out a precondition that you know is impossible to achieve, because you don't want to go through the uncomfortable unpleasantness of breaking it off. So that's what I think. And I think you should do it. I think the relationship is already over. And I think you have to be honest with yourself and stop hiding behind other people and say what you really think and do what you really want to do. So that's my opinion on that. All right, the second question here, the second email question that I got was from a young man, really young guy actually. He's only 17 years old, nice kid. And basically what he is asking is that he's basically, I'm currently debating what to do in my future. This is why I really love talking to young people. I just, in the sense that they're just they have this combination of dramatic intensity and yet innocence, and it just really reminds you of what you were like back, when you were that age. I mean, I'm 50 now. I'm 50 years old now, but it only seems like yesterday. Believe me. And when you see these questions, you kind of want to. You just kind of, you really. I've said this before. You really get a real sense of. I don't know. You get a very nice feeling. It's nice to be around idealistic people. It's nice to be around people that are just starting out, because there's none of that bitter cynicism that you see that people acquire as the decades roll on. So it's very nice. So anyway, let's get to the heart of what his question is. He's basically saying he's a senior in high school and he's got a few options available to him for education. His first option, he wants to attend a Great Books program, whatever that is. I'm not sure what that is, if that's a summer class or immersion program or what that is. And he likes the classics, and he thanks me for helping expose him to that, and I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. And then his other conflicting desire is he wants to attend a military school, one of the military academies or ROTC program or something like that, and he wants to be a Marine Corps officer, through one of those programs. Fantastic. Okay. So, he basically says, I think you're well placed to answer this question. What do you think I should do? All right. So, this is a pretty easy thing to answer. My response to this young guy would be, well, who says you can't do both? Who says you can't do both? I mean, why does it have to be either or? That's one of the things I think a lot of young people, I think they miss. They get so obsessed about planning everything down to such extreme detail that they get hyper organized. And I understand that's part of just the way things are these days, but I don't really see any conflict between these two things. If you're a senior in high school, okay, and if you want to go to a military school or military college, make sure you get your applications in on time, make sure you take the testing, make sure you do all those requirements, because that's important. Okay, I don't think you should put your life on hold just to take a Great Books program. You can read these books on your own. You don't need some guy in a classroom to now, it helps. It might help. Everyone learns in different ways, but I think you can always take your great books program during a summer when you're in college. So I don't think you should I don't think you should take a year off or anything or do anything like that. I don't think that's necessary. I think I should continue with your routine, apply for schools as you normally would, whatever academies you want to apply to, do that. Go through all the correct steps and the correct processes, and at the same time, keep your ear to the ground. Scour the internet and see if there's any way you can. Again, I don't know anything about these programs, Great Books programs. I've never, I don't. That's not something I'm really aware of. But if it sounds like from the way you're talking about it that it's some sort of intensive class or some sort of intensive immersion program, and maybe you can do that. You can integrate that into your college experience, or maybe you can do that. Take a month off during the summer and do it. Or worst case scenario, hell, I'll give you a list of books and I'll tell you to read those, and you can talk to me about it. So, so how's that for your Great Books program? So, you don't. I think if you have to establish a hierarchy of importance, and that's what priorities always come down to. You have to first establish what is most important, okay? And you have to be ruthless. You have to cut away all the emotional baggage and say, okay, what is important, okay? I don't think under any circumstances you should put your educational process on hold just to read a bunch of books. You can do that on your own, okay? You don't need some knob nibbler there in a classroom telling you what to think about this or that or the other thing. And again, it's nice, it helps, but I didn't have that. I sure as hell didn't have that. I did everything on my own, and so that's now again, I'm probably not the typical case. The typical example of that. Maybe I'm not the right person to use as an example, but the point is, I think that the college application process is more important right now than worrying about a Great Books program. You can always do that. You can do that in the summer. You can take a semester abroad. You can do a lot of different things. So anyway, easy question, I think, and I think an easy answer that I can hopefully give you on that. So hopefully that helps. So check back in with us. Let us know what you decided, how it worked out, and we will keep the fires stoked here at Fortress of the Mind. All right. I'm Quintus Curtius. Good night.